What's up? This is Steven, and it's been a minute. I'm sitting here in St. Thomas going through photographs, transposing or taking photos out of old albums and putting them into new albums that I bought maybe a year ago. And if you're familiar with old photo albums, there's a very sticky page that we used to put our pictures in. And after 20, 30, 40 years, it's very, very difficult to remove these photos. So I had to go on YouTube and I found a video by the Smithsonian and they advised putting gloves on. I think I had latex gloves and I may be allergic to latex because my face started burning a lot right after. I may have touched my face in the process. And one of the things they did advise, I tried to use a knife to remove these images, to these photos, and some of them were stuck so good they started to separate. So a great pro tip that I learned from YouTube was in trying to remove these photos, try dental floss. Once you get under the photo, working it between the photo and the page, and that does a pretty effective job of separating the photos from the page. So it's been a minute since I podcasted. I have been in a huge state of relocation, restoration, and reflection. I think the last time I recorded a vlog, my great aunt had passed and I had come back to St. Thomas to help take care of her and to give my grandfather / father Joe a break. He was kind of on the ground taking care of her. And, you know, we were looking forward to him traveling more, to visiting us more. And we got a call a few months later that he was found unresponsive, and they tested and had found that he was positive for COVID. I came down to help with his care, or, you know, to try to be here on the ground for him. The first doctor of color who was on rotation had the most aggressive care and had found him a bed in Fort Lauderdale. My grandfather had paid into medical transport, which we were about to take advantage of. And there was a facility in Fort Lauderdale that was treating COVID patients. My grandfather, he did not have sustainable O2 levels without the aid of the mask. So that had to be on him at all times. That was the only thing keeping him alive. A secure fit to the point that it was cutting through his skin to the bone. We got a bed and we were approved for medical transport. We were on the runway. The team was there. They weren't really saying anything. They were working on him. And then they asked me to leave the plane. And they said that his blood pressure was not sustainable for him to make the trip. And they asked me to get other transportation back to the hospital. And I caught a taxi back and the ambulance came back. The ambulance that took us there came to take him back. And by the time I made it through security in the hospital, he had passed, or they, you know, called it or what have you. So that was a very, very hell of a roller coaster. And to think about St. Thomas without thinking about Joe, who'd been, you know, in my life since I was born, that was just a really foreign concept. And I wanted to honor him. I wanted to take care of the home. And going through the process of doing that, me and my wife talked about it, and we felt like it would be a good idea to relocate since I was able to work remotely, and then see what our next steps are. Long story, not so long. This is where I am, and, you know, coming back and getting into the culture that I had left a long time ago, that I was kind of on the outsider of, as far as being an introvert. I didn't have a word for it then, but just coming back into that and bringing someone who this isn't their culture was a bit of a learning curve. On the outside, people might think it's paradise, but there's certain things as far as the way people are attitudes. It's a lot. I don't want to, to talk too much negativity, but there are things here that are just different on an individual basis and on a whole. Driving is crazy. It's like, that was one of the things that I had to learn and get used to, is on an island so small, everyone is in a hurry. And there's a lot of kind of recklessness where people will run lights, cut you off. And if you blow the horn, they want to confront you. So it's been an adjustment, and every day gets a little easier. But, going through the morning and planning another funeral and really missing our folk, and going back to the original thought when I started the recording, was just going through photos. So many memories. Joe was a photographer, and he was old school, of course, film. He actually had transitioned over to digital, and I didn't get a chance to show him how to work with digital. But he did have a DSLR, but he's got a lot of film, and he was always shooting and just going through all his photographs. And that's what I'm working on, transitioning over to something that will store it better. It's just a lot of memories also. So that's what's going on with me. I've been in analysis paralysis and trying to figure out where I fit in to my hometown after being away for so long, and, having a certain, I guess, idea about myself, and coming back to fit into a mold that I thought I'd left behind as far as who I am and who I was, and that sort of thing. So I may be rambling. I may not be making sense at this point, but that's what's been going on. And I'd been putting this episode off for ever, just trying to figure out, what am I going to talk about next? What content am I going to create next? I've been collecting audio visual equipment, transmitters, receivers, different types of action cameras, and have not recorded a single thing. So I am committing that this is the first step to more content. There's a balance between trying not to create content just to create content. That also has been kind of a drain on me, to see just the weird ways people are putting themselves out there or recording experiences just for content. And I always want to have something to say. So I guess for the longest, it's been 2 years now, I am just finding my voice. So that being said, talk to you soon.